So I was doing what I usually do when I release a video and spamming refresh to see if I was getting any views, likes and comments until I saw my boy Kobe Jordan's comment asking me if there was a more efficient way of using the items instead of the way I had originally done it with if statement branches for each class. I was writing out my comment explaining to him why I had done it this way, and without thinking about it too much, I dropped the idea that I could have possibly done it with blueprint interfaces and went back to refreshing my video. It wasn't until later that night when I was trying to sleep that it hit me. Why the f didn't I do it with blueprint interfaces? And so guys, that is why I've brought you back for one last video to change that, and I did actually find another bug when you change levels. There's something not quite right, so we're going to fix those two things. They are pretty essential to do, but in all seriousness, thank you Kobe for notifying me that I could have done it better, because now I've done it better and we've taken this inventory system to a next level. So let's jump into it. This one's going to be really quick, but yeah. So I will just quickly say this video is only for the people who are following me on the tutorial. People who have downloaded the inventory system, I've uploaded an updated version with the bug fixes, so all you need to do is download the updated version and you're good to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is find our blueprint interface, the interact one, and we're just going to add a function and call this use item. Compile and save this. Then we're going to go on to our consumables and we're going to delete our original use item event. Bring in our, let's compile, use item, bring in our new use item event. Then I'm just going to copy this over to the other consumables. And then back on the inventory slot, we can delete all of this, which really tidies things up. So now we still want to spawn an actor of class, because we still want to spawn the item so it can use the feature of the item. Then we're going to split open the transform so it can spawn somewhere out the way, just so we can use it and then destroy it. Then we're going to plug this in, and this time we're going to plug the class we've got saved in our variable into here. The only reason we didn't do this last time is because when you don't specify a class, you can't call any custom events, because at the moment this variable is blank. Until we actually fill it with something, it's blank, so we can't call any blueprints here. But now we've added the blueprint interface, we can actually call that. So we're going to do use item. Then we're going to destroy the actor, because after we've done what it wants to do, we want it to be deleted. And then we can just plug in our remove item and hide as we had on before, and that is looking a lot tidier than everything we had before. So now if you want to add a new item, you don't need to do anything with the use, because this will automatically detect it. Just make sure it's got the blueprint interface. So that's one thing out the way. Okay, now time for the second issue, which is a little bit more important than the first. When you pick up some items and you drop one, we have one stamina potion left. Then when we change levels, all of them disappear. Let me break this down as to why this happens. So as you guys should know by now, we need to store our items in the game instance, because that persists through levels. So what we were doing is we were adding our item to an array of items, and then we were removing an item when we were dropping it. So if we picked up 2 stamina potions, we would have 2 stamina potions in the array. But as their structure, all the details we set for them are exactly the same. When we remove that array element, it removes all the array elements with those details. So what we need to do is give each stamina potion a unique ID, so then when we remove them, it doesn't remove all of them, it just removes the one. The first thing we need to do is go into our item info structure, and we just need to add some sort of ID. So what we're going to do is make a new variable, call this size stack ID, or just some sort of identification, so when we drop one of the items, or even though they're the same in all the other fields, it won't drop all of them because they've got a different stack size ID. So then we're going to save this and open up our inventory slot. So before, when we added the item to the array, we actually did that in the inventory, but we no longer want to do it in the inventory, we want to do it in the inventory slot, so then we can assign each item a unique ID. So in our inventory, we're going to take this add array element, press Ctrl X to delete and copy it, then we're just going to paste it on the end of here for now. Then we're going to duplicate all of this set item to slot except the add array element. So I'm just going to move this down a bit, then duplicate all of this and call this set item map change. So before we were using this set item to slot custom event for when we added an item to the inventory and when we restocked the inventory after we changed map using the array we stored in the game instance. The only problem with this now is when we load into a new level, we're going through all the array in the game instance, then we're setting the item to the slot, which will run all this, and then it'll add an array element to the game instance. But we don't want to do that, because if we're adding an array element to the game instance, as we're for looping through the array, it's just going to be an infinite loop. It's just going to loop over and over, adding one, then assigning it, adding one, then assigning it. So we need to create two set item to slots, one with the array and one without. Now if we go onto our inventory, when we pick up an item, we can call the set item to slot node, which will add that item to the array, which we can bring in when we load in the next map. Then when we're loading into our other level and restocking our inventory, we can call the set item map change, which does everything exactly the same as the set item to slot, but it's not going to add an array element. This means when we're looking through the inventory, array, we're not going to be adding an item to it while it's looking through it, so it's not going to for loop. So now what we need to do is go on to these functions and change the set item to set item map change. So I've already done it here, but I'll redo it just for the sake of it. So change your set item to set item, drag off the array element, sorry, set item map change, plug that in there, and plug the item info into the for loop. So this is the one on the right we're not doing the left side. The left side set item to slot, the right side set item map change when we're changing levels. Then we need to go into our function and change this one to set item map change, which I've already got there. Set item map change. Then we're going to plug the item info into the item info. Okay, so now we can use both these custom events. One when we're adding an item to the inventory and we want to add that item to the array. Then one when we're restocking our inventory, going through the array, we can call it without causing the program to loop and for loop and crash. So now for our set item to slot, we want everything to be exactly the same, but we want to +1 to the ID, so they're all unique and they don't get erased as one. So we're going to move our current quantity before we set our variable, and we want all the information to be exactly the same. We don't want to change any of the item's information. All we want to change is give it a unique ID every time we add one. So just plug all these together, and then plus, we're going to be plussing one to the ID, so they're unique. Then just make sure when we're adding the array element, we're adding in the item info, the updated item info with the increase in ID. And that's it for adding items to the slot. Okay, now time for the remove item. So let's say we're removing an item where we're on ID 4. So we remove the stamina potion with the ID 4. Then we just need to take one away to the ID. So then when we try and remove another one, we're going to be removing stamina potion ID 3. So all we need to do is bring in the item info, split it apart, and we can actually just take one away by pulling off the ID and typing decrement int, which will take one away. And that should be it, guys. So if we test this out now and drop one of these, or let's just drop one of each, we should still have one of each when we transfer, and we do. Okay guys, that's it. I'm really sorry if I went into too much detail. I was just trying to make sure you guys understood, but at the same time go as quick as possible. Next time I won't have these bugs. Hopefully I'll test things out properly in the future, but apologies for that. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.